Nice to see you. Yeah, Sarah Scarface.
Oh, there's, hey, Bob.
Does that make sense to me?
You guys ready? Yeah. Are you? Yeah. Doesn't fade me. Let's go. Let's go, girl.
I just want to take the time to welcome all of you here tonight. I'm Elizabeth. I'm the Executive Director at the Grafton Area Chamber of Commerce. We are the host tonight, but we could not do this without the League of Women Voters. And so I'm going to take this time to introduce Mary Fran, and she is going to take over from here. So, thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. This is wonderful to see a nice turnout. Welcome to the candidate forum for Grafton Village Trustees. Tonight's forum is to introduce you to the candidates, and we are not limiting it to one issue, obviously. As Elizabeth said, my name is Mary Fran Lepesca. I'm a proud member of the League of Women Voters of Ozaukee and Washington counties. I live in Port Washington, and I'll be your moderator. The forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters and the Grafton Chamber, and certainly special thanks to Elizabeth for the arrangements for tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We do not oppose or endorse any candidate or political party. And the Grafton Chamber of Commerce is also nonpartisan, does not support any candidate or party. Now, the Chamber is recording tonight's forum, and it's also live, so lots of, hopefully, voters out there. And it will be also posted on the Chamber's website, and there will be links on the Facebook page and the League of Women Voters Ozaukee website. So we don't want any audio or visual recordings. Now, we have 4 candidates here tonight for the nonpartisan Grafton Village Trustee seat, and their names will appear on the ballot for the general election on April 1st. So we want you to become informed voters in this upcoming election. Now, questions for tonight's forum were solicited by the Grafton Chamber. And if you have cards or if you have questions, I encourage you to write them on the cards, and some of our league youth members will go around and collect them. And please make sure that you direct the question to the candidates and make them related to the trustee position. Donna Fowler and Roz Isbell are in the back, and they'll put any of your questions that are collected into categories and combine any similar questions. Okay, now to introduce our 4 candidates. They are seated from your left to right, and in a random order that was selected before we began tonight's forum. So on the left, oh dear, did I leave the last names of the Kevin Curtis, okay, Dave Armstrong, and Sarah Scarpace, and Jim Miller. Okay, yes.
The easy one.
Yeah, you got the easy one. Okay. Now, the format for tonight's forum is that each candidate will first have 90 seconds to make an opening statement, and they'll make them in the order in which they are seated. And our timekeeper is League member Jean Dreblow, and she will hold up the signs for the candidates to see where they are. Then the opening statements will be followed by responses to the questions. They will get 1 minute to answer each question. And after the question period, candidates will then have 2 minutes to summarize their positions in a closing statement. And finally, I'd like to say that the views expressed during tonight's forum are each candidate's positions and not those of the League of Women Voters or the Grafton Chamber of Commerce. Now, these candidates that I have chosen to make a special effort to run for elected office, and as a consequence, they are subjecting themselves to the scrutiny of you, the voters. Whatever you may think of each candidate's position on issues, they deserve our respect for their willingness to serve in public office. So please silence your personal devices. Kindly hold all of your applause until the end of the forum. Okay, we will begin with introductory remarks. And since Kevin's name came up first on the randomizer, he will have first shot at the opening statement. So take it away, Kevin.
Hello, my name is Kevin Curtis. I'm a husband and father of 2 of kids in the Grafton School District. I'm a software engineer, so I'm used to the idea of taking complex and often abstract ideas and bringing concrete solutions that fit into people's budgets and work and meet the solutions to meet their criteria. I am running for village trustee because I am focused on community over growth. I am focused on making sure that our public service get the funding they needed, making sure that we redevelop existing buildings over building new, building a walkable downtown area, creating a board that listens to its community. I also want to make sure we take care of our natural resources. I want to invest in our park system because we have wonderful parks in Grafton, and we should make sure we keep it that way. I want to invest in other natural resources, one of them being the Milwaukee River. I have noticed that recently the Milwaukee River is starting to get a little bit dirty, and I want to make sure that that is one of our priorities. I'm also looking at sustainable growth, the idea that Grafton is growing, and that's a great thing, but it also comes with some restrictions that we need to do. We need to make sure we keep our infrastructure at a reasonable cost to make sure that we don't overburden our budgets. Thank you.
Dave?
Hi, I'm Dave Armstrong. I'm Vice President of Capital First Trust Company in Milwaukee. I've been there for 27, almost 28 years now. My family moved to Grafton in 1970, January of 1970. Grafton is my hometown. Been here nearly 55 years. When I first came to Grafton, there were less than 4,000 people in the village. Now we're close to a little over 12,000, and I just want to see that the people of the village of Grafton can continue to experience what I experienced as a child growing up and into my adult years. When I ran 2 years ago, I had a potential voter come up to me and says, "What do you want to change about Grafton?" And I told them, I'm not looking to change anything. I just want to make sure we're doing what's right for the village. And I continue to believe that. I do want to see that we do develop the downtown area. And I think that's important. But again, I just want to make sure we're doing what is right for the people and for the village and try and find that happy balance. Thank you.
Sarah?
Hello, I'm Sarah Scarpace, and I live here in Grafton with my two daughters, who both attend John Long Middle School. I've lived in the village for nearly 19 years, and I'm a longtime Ozaukee County resident. My family moved to Port Washington in 1992 when my father was stationed at the 128th Air Refueling Wing in Milwaukee. Growing up in an active military family, both my parents taught me the values and the importance of being a servant leader. I'm running for village trustee because I feel my education, background, and experience make me an excellent candidate for the job. My background is in journalism, graduating with a communications degree from UW-Milwaukee in 2005. During my time as a reporter for the Ozaukee Press, I covered stories in Grafton, including the very first public DOT discussion about the widening of Highway 60 from 1st to 11th Avenue, the remodeling of the Grafton Hotel, and several other stories by attending village board meetings. During my 4 years as a programs coordinator and administrative assistant for the Grafton Area Chamber of Commerce, I gained firsthand experience working with members of the Department of Public Works, the Police Department, and dozens of local businesses to produce community events, including our Grafton holiday events, the State of the Community Address, and Independence Day Parade, to name a few. As a village trustee, I will focus on maintaining the reasonable growth of both residential and business development. I will support the ongoing needs of the Ozaukee Central Fire Department, and I will work hard to be the collective voice of voters. Thank you for your consideration, and I am eager to serve my fellow neighbors as a village trustee.
Thank you. Jim?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jim Miller. I'm a candidate for village trustee and a longtime Grafton resident. And second generation trustee. I was appointed to the village board back in December of 2019. Over that time, I have served on the Finance and Public Safety Committees, CDA, and Library Board. My passion is with Park and Rec. I have served over 27 years on the Park and Rec, including 10 years for the city of Port Washington. I continue working for the Grafton School District in a support staff role. I was a member of the WIAA for over 50 years and have officiated over 5,000 games. I'm a founding member of the Northeastern Officials Association and a member of the Grafton High School Athletic Hall of Fame. I am an active member of the Grafton Senior Center and have a new pen pal friend, Finn. I was also recently appointed to the Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. I look forward to serving you the next 2 years.
Thank you. Okay, now we will go to the questions, and we will start with Dave. And if you'd like me to read the question again to repeat it, please let me know. Question number 1. What do you see as the top issues facing the village currently, and what would be your strategy in tackling at least one of these issues? Dave.
Okay. I think the number one priority for the village is making sure that we can continue to have the safe community that we live in, and that starts with our police department. The police department is an integral part of, as you well know, safety being the number one issue for them and for us. Making sure that they have the officers that can work the village, that we have enough of them, and that we can staff all positions for our village. I mean, we need to make sure that the police department itself is also up to date, and that the vehicles and everything else that to go along with the police department is the most safe and current vehicles that they can do a job for all of us.
Thank you. Sarah.
Right now, in the village of Grafton, there seems to be an ongoing disconnect between the different types of businesses residents want in Grafton versus what's being approved for development. People have stated time and again that there are enough banks, fast food, and pizza, coffee shops, etc., and said they would like to see more quality sit-down restaurants approved. I feel the most important issue voters are facing right now is that their preferences are not being fully heard or recognized by local officials and/or decision makers. As your village trustee, I will fight for reasonable business development by thoroughly questioning projects during the early stages of proposals. I fully support business development here in Grafton. However, I feel it's time to be a bit more selective about the types of projects that are being approved. I will bring a balanced approach by talking with committee members and also keeping residents informed of projects to ensure the collective voice of the community is heard. I just feel that if we start being more selective about the types of businesses that are being approved, that'll help keep the quality of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jim?
I like where the village is headed, but would like to try and limit our downtown development. I hear from so many people, I want the old Grafton back, and so do I. And I think if we limit downtown development, we can meet halfway. If there's some development, especially I think maybe on the west side, that's fine. But downtown, let's fill the vacancies that we have. I don't think there's too many. And try and keep some semblance of old Grafton downtown.
Thank you. And Kevin?
One of the major issues that Grafton is having is it is growing in a boom. We are growing very fast, very rapidly, and I do think that we do need to be a little more selective on where we are growing. The downtown area does have a few businesses that are very vacant right now and are not being utilized properly. We need to make sure we invest in that area. One of the ways I want to do that is by making sure that downtown is a more walkable area. I want to make sure we can bring more people into Grafton who want to stay there for a longer time. This will help out with businesses in the area and help out keep the community feeling of Grafton still.
Good. Okay, question number 2, and we will start with Sarah. What are your thoughts on recent or proposed development projects, and how do you balance growth with maintaining community identity?
Ooh. Can you repeat that one more time?
What are your thoughts on recent or proposed development projects, and how do you balance growth with maintaining community identity?
Okay, great question. First and foremost, residential growth. If you look at the results posted by the Community Economic Profile that was just recently reported for 2024, the population of the village of Grafton has only increased by roughly 1,800 folks since 2000. So from the residential side of growth, I feel that the community is doing a good job of growing the different types of housing units that are available in Grafton. And I would say that, again, though, to find the balance that we really need in the Grafton is understanding that, a Dave's Hot Chicken isn't everybody's idea of a sit-down restaurant. And so we need to bring more action to committees, subcommittees at early stages of development in order to have our voices heard.
Jim?
As far as recent / proposed development, I think there's a hot button out there, and it's called the triangle. And what do we do with the triangle? Whatever sort of moderate development, I would look at only with the approval of the residents that live in that area, the Sunset Court area. Or maybe we have to consider buying the triangle property back from Three Leaf. Ideally, I'd love to see a chamber put there or a historical society put there. That costs money, I get it. Development on the west side of town, which is going on now with Bob's place, with Mr. Tillman's development. Oh, I got cut off.
Sorry, that minute goes fast.
I would never have guessed I would have gone over, but I did.
Just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah. With some of the proposed and recent growth that Grafton had is we are building a little bit too fast in some areas. I do think proposals like the Triangle property as the multi-use facility that was originally proposed on it is wrong for that area. We are starting to we are building more and more bigger things and not looking at things that are actually useful to people. We need to make sure we take care of our housing infrastructure, especially because we are building more houses that are coming outside of people's available ranges in pricing. I do want to make sure that we look into making sure we take care of that and make sure we take care of our community that way, because that way we do keep that community feel of that small town feel, and we don't have too many open strip malls like we have over by Blaine's Farm and Fleet and what was going to be the Big Lots.
Thanks. And Dave.
Okay, my thoughts on redevelopment for current projects. I think that we have enough apartments and we need to focus more on single-family units in the village rather than, putting up big apartment complexes. The ones on Port Washington Road, especially, I think we need to limit that at this point, and just look at, like say, the single-family units. Like to keep Grafton to have its small town feel. The other thing is we have to also be prepared to look at our schools once that happens. Once we get a lot of growth here, we have to find a place for these kids to be educated with the families that will be placed in our village. So I think those are the most important things that we have to look at with our current projects.
Okay, question number 3, and this comes to you, Jim. Okay. What areas of village infrastructure or services do you believe need the most attention, and what are your suggestions for improvement?
Improvement-wise, I think we've got a lot of positive things going for us. We have a DPW that continues to work to make our residents feel safe in the wintertime as far as plowing and, well, they do a good job. Infrastructure-wise, I'm good with what we got going on here in the village. We've got a lot of positive things going on, and we need to focus on the positive. This is a very nice area to live. We should all be happy and blessed to live here in Grafton.
Kevin?
One of the major infrastructure projects that I know is going on right now is reworking the sewage plant. This is a big deal and is very important to everyone in Grafton because we do need to make sure we take care of that. The plant being treated right now is getting one of its pipes refitted, and that is a big important thing. In addition to that, we need to take care of our roads. With the amount of new buildings that we're doing, the amount of added area we are adding to the village of Grafton, that is going to increase the amount of roads that we need to be taken care of, which is going to increase the cost of all of our services like road repair and plows. I am very much looking to increase the amount that we actually take care of our roads and looking into improving more of it over the years.
Thank you. Dave?
The area for the village infrastructure that I think needs to pay close attention to would be our roads. The problem there, though, is the funding for, replacing or even repairing the roads that are in poor condition. That's going to be the key on how to find the money to do that. But in order for us to have a village that everybody wants to live, village to grow naturally, is that we need to have, nice roads to drive on, and otherwise people aren't going to want to come here either. And that's going to be important to continue to grow this village as we are come to expect in the past. So I think roads is the most important part.
Okay, thank you. And Sarah?
Okay, so two things. My house was built in 1968, and in 2003, I had to replace the lateral line in my house because the life expectancy of that lateral line had reached its end. And I think that that is something to keep an eye on as far as infrastructure goes in the village of Grafton, of these houses that maybe are yours or built around that time. That is something to keep a close eye on as far as the lateral lines when they connect to the village and what that cost is going to look like for the village. I think that's something that will be seen down the road. Furthermore, just to echo what Jim Miller said, I can't get over how wonderful our Department of Public Works is. We have an outstanding Department of Public Works that works so hard for us. We've lost a couple of really good, long-tenured members of our DPW, and I'm a little worried about the retention of employees in our Department of Public Works and how to keep that department vibrant and the morale there going on so that we can retain quality workers in our DPW. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Question number 4. Kevin, we're going to give this one to you first. What role do you think the village should play in protecting?
The village should take a big role in this. This is one of the things that I am campaigning on, the idea that we need to take care of our natural resources in order to be able to use them. The Milwaukee River itself is going to get a little bit dirty. We are going to need to take care of that if we want to be able to use it. I know that recently we are getting new kayaks being put down over by the bridge, and if we want to be able to have that as a good be able to have people use those kayaks, we will need to take care of the river at the same time. Taking care of those natural resources like parks, the river, any of the forestry in the area that we take care of is a very big deal for me. And that's one of the things that does make Grafton the great village it is.
Thank you. Dave?
I think the role that the village needs to play in protecting our natural resources is to try and go and find, different ways to, protect them, especially the river. But we need to find grants or some other ways to, get the money to help protect them rather than just increasing taxes and those types of things. So in order to do that, though, we just have to have the right people that, know where to look and in our different departments. So we just have to make sure that we're being cost conscious to begin with before we can just open up our wallets and say, hey, let's just spend. We need a way to find different ways to fund those.
Thank you. Sarah?
It's a very important part for the village to take care of our natural resources, all the gorgeous park space that we have in the village of Grafton. And I would also say that I would challenge the residents also to take care of the space by stepping up and volunteering on days where there's trash pickups or learning more about the quality of the water in the Milwaukee River. But it is extremely important to me, and I do see it as a duty to the village trustees to work on maintaining the parks, the conditions they have, our natural resources. A lot of that work comes down to our DPW crew, where they are making sure that branches are cut down and the ice is safe enough to ice skate on, and the list goes on and on. So I think it's twofold between the village trustees and the crew, along with all of our community, to take it upon ourselves to take care of the nature that we are blessed to live around in Ozaukee County.
Thank you. And Jim?
Recently, we just opened up a brand new pavilion down at Veterans Memorial Park. I invite all of you to go take a look at it once it's open year-round. When you go to the east side of that building, and you're going to see the river, and that river needs some dredging bad. It's got algae galore. So while you got a nice pavilion to look out, what you're going to see needs some attention. We recently just okayed some additional money to restore the lime kilns. What a treasure for our village. So enjoy our parks. Let's keep them up.
Thank you. All right, Dave, you get this first question number 5. Do you believe that residents should be able to speak, ask questions, or otherwise provide citizen input during village board and/or committee meetings?
This is going to be a very easy question. I mean, I encourage it. I would like to see more people show up to our not only our village board meetings, but even the subcommittees, so they can voice their opinions, and so we know what you guys, what you want. If we don't get the village members to come to our meetings, it's harder for us to really get an opinion on what they truly want and need. So without that input, it makes our job a little bit harder. So like I say, I encourage, more attendance at our meetings. I mean, we have a great turnout tonight. I'd like to see these types of turnouts at every meeting that I'm a part of.
Thank you. Sarah?
Absolutely resounding yes. I would love to see people be able to speak their mind and voice their opinions at our village board meetings. Recently, the time has been cut shorter for the amount of public speaking that an individual can do, and I find that concerning. I think that should be increased. I also, again, would echo the fact that we should all be attending as residents the subcommittee meetings. Like, that's some good stuff to be watching on a Monday and Tuesday night. So let's all get together, go out, and participate in democracy at the subcommittee level, because that's where your voice is heard on topics that are important to you, whether it's infrastructure, development, you name it, the works. It's in those subcommittee meetings where the magic happens. So please come on out, join us, and share your voice.
Jim?
Absolutely, yes. Right now, if you come to a village board meeting, there's a time clock in there. It's set at 2 minutes. Well, that's not a heck of a lot of time to be able to talk. So when there's an area that says persons wishing to be heard, if you come up to the front and talk, you get 2 minutes with a clock hanging over your shoulder. That needs to change. People's voices need to be heard.
Okay, thank you. And Kevin?
To reiterate what a lot has said, yes, we should definitely have more people encourage saying more at the board. We have cut down on the time, which I do think is the wrong way to be going about this. We need to hear more from the citizens rather than hear less. I also think that the board should do more to reach out to the community members. I know that not everyone can make the board meetings all the time, and that we do need a way to be able to reach out and talk to people more and figure out what they want. I know a previous thing that had been done in Grafton was a survey. This seems like a good idea and something that we should do to make sure that we hear from the people more rather than just have them come to us.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Question number 6, Sarah. Okay. How will you ensure that residents' concerns and feedback are acknowledged and addressed promptly?
I love this question. Thank you. Okay, first and foremost, I will always be available to meet with voters in person to discuss any issues that they'd like to address and how I can be of service. I will be available by the standard phone and email avenues. However, in-person communication will always, always, always be my first preference. Additionally, and most importantly, I plan on keeping folks informed about my work as a village trustee through regular use of video on my Facebook page and other media avenues. I feel that it's time for the village of Grafton to start improving how it provides information to its residents, and that includes in a more modern format on a regular basis. We are a society of people that consume video more than any other content, so I want to hear from residents by, sparking conversation through video, and then also showing you what we're talking about so you as residents have a more informed, full understanding of projects. So it's going to be a two-way street between you hearing from you and then also sharing with you.
Thank you. Jim?
Yes, we need to. What I've done in the last 5 years is if I get an email, I'll respond. I try and respond to every single one of them. If I can, I will go meet with the person who has sent the email. I'll go to different residences and be available. What can I do to help you? I work for you. I try and reply to all residents' concerns.
Good, thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, we should definitely be doing that more. We should definitely be going out and listening to the people. I know that right now it is a bit of a tricky to find on the village website when the board meetings are happening. That is a bit of a pain to do, and that is something I've been trying to keep a calendar for myself to keep track of when all the board meetings are. I would like to be able to have that a little more publicly available so we can all see that when those are happening. And I also think that board members should go out and reach out more. I know that having in-person meetings is a big thing, and that's a huge thing. But we also should have a more online presence and a way to reach out to more people on their terms too. I also have a Facebook page for this campaign that I am trying to use as a conduit to kind of tell what's going on in the community at the same time.
Thank you. And Dave?
Obviously, communications with the residents is very important. We have digital technology at our fingertips, and I try to answer the emails that are sent to me. And if I don't have an answer, I'll try and find that answer, and I will tell them if I don't know, I will get the answer, or lead them in the right directions where they can get an answer that is acceptable for them.
Good, okay. Jim, you get the first try at this question, number 7.
Yep.
What is your position on government transparency at the local level? And how will you ensure that the village government is transparent and accountable to its residents?
Oh, transparency is obviously very important, and that's an area we need to improve. I think a lot of times issues come up that don't want to be discussed, and the transparency disappears. Most recently, we've got some questions on development of roads on 10th Avenue. And we've asked for citizen input. We've got citizen engineers coming back with different numbers than what our own DPW has. We need to look at that. So transparency is very, very important, and we need to improve.
Okay. Kevin?
Government transparency is a huge deal, especially at the local levels. We have to make sure that we, as board, are accountable to our citizens. We have to make sure they know what's going on at all times. Again, with the 10th Avenue issue, we have seen these kinds of things pop up where people are being told one thing when it's actually different. I know that the letter that went out about that told that the roads were going to be narrowed to 28 feet when they were actually going to be done to 32. This kind of mixed messages is not helpful for our government. This does not help create trust in our government. This does not help us believe our leaders are in it for us.
Okay, Dave?
I mean, I can mirror both what Kevin and Jim has already said. I mean, it's very important that we have transparency in our government, and that it comes down to us. I mean, we have to, be there for the people. But we, again, like a previous question, come to our meetings and sit and listen to what we have to say, and go to the subcommittees and voice your opinion, and let them know if we're not doing something that you're looking for. Talk to us, talk to me. I'm happy to talk and sit down and try and discuss whatever issues you may have. So I hope you will do that if I'm reelected.
Sarah?
I believe that transparency and accountability go hand in hand. So it's pertinent now more than ever for there to be full transparency in politics, especially at the local level. My biggest way to make sure that I have all of the information so that things are completely transparent is by talking to fellow trustees, people in the community, members of the project that's being discussed, but then also making sure that you have the full understanding and the story of what's going on with whatever said topic or project's being discussed. Furthermore, it's about reporting back to you, who I work for, the voters, and explaining to you, what I've heard, what's going on. and then having that discussion with you, because that bridges that transparency and holds that two-way street accountable. The voters come to me and say, hey, you need to hold your colleagues accountable, and that is extremely important to me.
Thank you. Okay, Kevin, you get a crack at question number 8. If the Ozaki Central Fire Department Board approaches the village about funding a portion of the facility renovations for the fire stations, how should the village's portion of the project be funded?
The Ozaki County Fire Department Ozaki Central Fire Department is going to be is a big deal. I know that last year when I was campaigning, I was really pushing for it also because it was the referendum at the time. One of my concerns of it at the time was not how much money, but that it was not enough. I knew that we would need more, and seeing that, and I've actually talked to I've talked to one of the fire department members there. About this, about how they have been trying to transform their areas and make it more of a livable space so that way they can have it. The village board should do more to help out with that. We should be willing to put more into that, because that is our safety. If we want to make sure we stay safe, we need to invest in our safety nets.
Dave?
Well, something of a project on that scale, I think would have to be put on as in a referendum on the ballot. We have to have the village residents support it. Because we're not talking something that we can just put in as a budgetary item for the village of Grafton. Yes, they are their own entity at this time. However, I think we have to make sure that we can maintain their response times to all the residents of Grafton. But again, that dollar figure is going to have to get approval from the residents before we can really do anything.
Sarah?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I fully support the needs of the Ozaki Central Fire Department, particularly the Grafton Fire Department building itself, whether it's structural improvements or what have you. I think as far as it comes for funding for this, I know that the village does have some access to ARPA funds, and I would be interested to find out if some of those ARPA funds would be able to be applied to these building renovations. If that's a portion that we could use in addition to having it as a referendum. But I would like to think that there are other ways that we could think creatively outside the box to find solutions to funding the facility upgrades we need. But I would start by checking out the ARPA funds along with other discussions of village financing that we could use to solve this problem with the building before we bring it to the taxpayers for another referendum.
Thank you. And Jim?
The Ozaki County Fire Department is its own entity, like was mentioned, with 4 communities: the village of Grafton, the town of Grafton, village of Saukville, the town of Saukville. So funding needs to be split up between those 4 communities. We're gonna see this come to a end sometime this summer or fall when they are short-staffed. Chief Rice is maybe one of the very best employees we have, and he's going to be scrambling for staff. So the funding needs to be shared by all 4 communities.
Okay. Dave, how do you engage with fellow trustees or residents who disagree with you? And can you describe how you would handle conflicting viewpoints?
Well, that's kind of tough. I haven't had a lot of disagreements in the 2 years that I've been trustee. So, but we have open communication. At least I do, with all the trustees. All 5 other trustees and the village president. I get phone calls. We talk about things. We meet after meetings, discuss things. But to actually say I haven't had a conflict with any of them, I have to disagree. I haven't had that yet. I'm not saying I won't have that, but I'm willing to talk to any one of them, to see how we can come to an agreement or work together to get a common goal.
Okay, Sarah.
Great question. I have had the pleasure of sitting down with both candidates for the village president role, and there were points where I didn't agree with either candidates on some certain things, but we were able to sit down and have a civil discussion with one another, and I believe that that is possible with anybody as long as you actively work on it. I have known members of the village administration, staff, and village trustees for over 10 years now, and whenever that something comes up that I have questions on and that we might not agree on, typically in my experience, if there's a disagreement, it's because someone doesn't have the full information. So I take it upon me, if I'm having a disagreement with someone, to try to make sure that I have the information and can see both sides so that we can come to a resolution and try to solve the problem together.
Jim?
The key is communication, obviously. I think we all, on the board level, we're professional with one another, we're congenial with one another, and we are going to have differences. That's okay. But we need to be able to keep the lines of communication open, and if we need to reach someone, one of our colleagues, be able to sit down and talk, and I've had success with that.
Okay, and Kevin?
Generally, just professionalism and good communication is a good way to handle disagreements. We talk about each other. We talk about each other with kindness, and we use we speak about the issues, and we try to find a mutual ground of understanding of where we both understand the other person's point of view. That way, we can work together to kind of find a good way to get past this disagreement. Depending on how it is, it may go one side or the other, but communication is the key point about that, and professionalism about that communication.
Okay. All right, Sarah. If elected, what is your plan to build relationships with both the administrative staff and all other staff members in order to sustain growth and keep the village moving forward?
Thank you for this question. So I have been very involved with various events throughout the community for over 15 years now, and I've had the pleasure of getting to work with the village administration and their crew members, and so I'm a people person. I'm going to come find you and talk to you and introduce myself and learn more about you. This community is truly near and dear to my heart, so I really look forward to getting to work with village trustees on different projects and collaborate from a different perspective with the Grafton Area Chamber of Commerce, the police department, all these different entities. So it's going to be a lot of in-person, and I'm hoping to have a lot of good sit-down conversations with people to build those relationships over time, because we have the same goal of making Grafton great.
Jim?
Building relationships is very important. For me, I'm fortunate. I have known a lot of employees here in the village for many, many years. I feel I have a good relationship with all the department heads. So if I have a concern, I'll reach out to that department head and say, what can we do about this, that, or whatever? But it's all about communication. I feel that I can do that in a very positive manner.
Thank you. Kevin?
One of the big things about building a relationship is communication, yes. We should definitely, if elected, I would definitely be more than willing to talk in person to every department head, to make sure I understood both what their goals are and what their needs are. because those are two different things and are very important to why these people are doing the wonderful job they are. We need to keep that up, and we need to make sure that they understand that that the village board is behind them and supporting them in these ways.
And Dave?
Obviously, it's very important to build the relationships with the staff of all the different departments within the village. And I'm always available to them, and I know they're available to me. It's all you have to do is pick up that phone and call them if you've got questions, or send an email. And every time I've done that, they've always reached right back out to me, so I know, and they know that the doors are open both ways. So as long as we can continue to do that, I try and meet with them as often as I can, but I've never been turned down when I've wanted to, reach out and meet with them. So I would hope that they would have that same feeling with me, that if they need to come see me about anything, I'm there for them as well.
Good. Okay, this is a fun question. Start with Jim. Okay. If you received a $5 million grant to use for the village any way you wanted, what would you do and why?
I'm going to build the biggest, nicest park around. That was the easy one.
Okay.
That's all I need, with a lot of playground, and I want all the kids from the village up there having a gay old time.
All right. How about you, Kevin?
I would love to invest more in our parks area. I know that the park in my subdivision currently doesn't have a bathroom. It's a bit of an issue right now because there is no other place in this area. It is a bit. I live over on the Shady Hollow subdivision, and the park over there is far more remote than the rest of the parks in Grafton, unfortunately. So it does create a bit of an issue. In addition, I'd like to make sure we invest in our library, especially. My kids are not here today, unfortunately, because they're at the library. They're actually part of doing the pen pal group there too at the same time, and they absolutely love that library. It is honestly one of the best libraries I've ever been to, especially for kids. So I want to make sure we invest in that too.
Great. Dave?
I only get $5 million?
Yep.
$5 million, it could go a long way for a lot of different projects here in the village. But I think, again, I'll go back to a couple of different points. One, our fire department, one, our police department. We need to have the protection we need for both of those different departments to continue to thrive in this community. And I think those would be the two places that I would want to spend that money. If it was equal, don't know, but we'd have to look at those two spots and then move on from there.
And Sarah, what's on your wish list?
Oh my gosh, so many things for $5 million. Okay, first off, I would give a substantial raise to all of our amazing crew members over at the Department of Public Works. The Grafton Fire Department building would be beautiful. Let's see. I would also really make sure that we took an allocated part of that $5 million and put it over to really make sure that we have some money set aside for ongoing maintenance to the dam in the Milwaukee River. And then I guess I would say, obviously, really allocating a good chunk of that money, if there's any of this $5 million left, to our public pool and our parks, and see if we could get, a second rack of kayaks on the river. That would be amazing. Have I spent all the money yet? I would also really like to fix some of the four-way intersections that are uncontrolled, and maybe throw a couple of bucks at some stop signs at those bad boys too. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin, with business development, employment will be key. What are your views on affordable housing and development versus high-end housing units?
Yeah. So one of the things that I believe in is that we do need to make some more affordable housing in Grafton. There is a subdivision on Green Bay Road, I'm blanking on the name right now, that is making less than a quarter acre lot and under 2,000 square feet of house without a basement that are charging $800,000 for the houses. And I think that is absolutely ridiculous that we have housing costs that high. There are some areas in Grafton that are a little bit more affordable, which is great. I love that. I love seeing that. I want to make sure that those kinds of housing units are built. So that way we can have houses, especially ones that are for more starter families.
Okay, Dave.
Well, let me start off by saying affordable housing, it sounds great. However, there's not a developer that wants to build those buildings. They can't make money off them, for one thing. They need to, get people that can afford to live there so they can make a profit off of what they're building. And by, building the lower end units, they're not going to get the amount of revenue that they were anticipating when they bought the land to begin with. So it's a difficult situation. I mean, yeah, you want the business development to be here, but again, we're not that far away. People want to work here, they want to live here, I get it, but I just don't know that affordable housing is the answer.
Sarah.
Okay, so my concern is about the amount of rental units that are being built and the cost of rent being, astronomical these days, and it just keeps going up. Affordable housing is an issue that we need to figure out how to solve. I understand that developers are not making money, but there are many businesses in the area that are unable to retain, contracted workers, especially like Aurora and their nurses, because people can't afford to rent the apartments here and work at our hospital because they can't live here. So that is a concern for me. I would like to figure out a way to solve that problem. It's a big one. It's a challenge that we're going to have to try to solve. I want to end on a positive note by saying I do appreciate seeing developers that come into Grafton and show interest in our old buildings, such as the folks behind the Goldfinger Studios, which is a commercial condo that was it was an old metal foundry on 6th Avenue that has now been turned into condos. So taking existing buildings in the community and fixing those up is what I'd like to focus on for residents.
And Jim.
Just before I get to affordable housing, Tom, I want to flip you some of that money for the Historical Society and a chamber up on the Triangle. Now, affordable housing, I think we can make it work. I know what you're saying, Dave, but I don't know if we're trying hard enough. We've got a long-time developer partner in Bob Tillman. We need to let's talk with Bob and say, what can you do for us, Bob? We got to try and get some affordable housing for residents that want to move here. I think it can happen. I'm not so sure we worked at it hard enough.
Okay, Dave, this question's for you. What are your plans for addressing traffic flow on Highway 60? Will you stop growth until this is handled?
Well, unfortunately, the village really is having control of Highway 60. That's a Wisconsin Department of Transportation issue and not a village issue. So, I mean, we can get together and try and work with the state to get that addressed. However, the state's going to have the final say rather than the village.
Okay, Sarah?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What are your plans for addressing traffic flow on Highway 60? Will you stop growth until that is handled?
Okay, so DOT stuff I very much enjoy talking about because my father, not only was he in the military, but he worked for the Department of Transportation for 17 years. And then I worked at a civil engineering firm, so and marketing for about a year and a half in Cedarburg. So this is a topic that I could talk about. I remember when the DOT came here years ago to first talk to us about the widening of Highway 60 in town. It is going to be a big project, and I am concerned about how traffic is going to be rerouted during that time, but it's going to be a necessary evil in order to get that fixed. And more importantly, I think it's about how do we communicate with residents on a regular basis to keep you guys in the know of when the construction is going on, how long will it be going on for, what routes are open, what routes are not, what are your alternatives? So, yeah, that's my stance on traffic.
And Jim?
Yeah, we got traffic flow issues on Highway 60 for sure. I have had a resident that lives on Fifth Avenue and tells me how long it takes from them on Fifth Avenue to make a left onto Highway 60. And okay, I'm going to go check this out for myself. And I was there today, and it was like, I get it. It does take too long. Maybe we needed a few additional stoplights here or there, but something has to happen from the avenues to Highway 60.
Okay, and Kevin?
Yeah, we definitely need to look into Highway 60. I know that has been a big traffic area for years, even before I was here. I see that every day when I drive by, and I see the traffic going through. It is too much, and I'm glad that that the Wisconsin DOT is actually looking into this and doing some repairs on this. But we need to make sure that we have some say in this. We need to make sure we say something to the federal government about this, about the state government about this, and make sure that we get our voices heard. I don't think we should stop growth for this. I don't think we can stop the growth for this, unfortunately, either. I think that we need to worry about making sure that we help out the citizens of Grafton get through this while the road is being worked on, and finding alternative routes especially.
Okay. All right, Sarah, this question begins for you. Does the village have federal funding or grants for projects now or in the future? And if that funding is cut, how will these projects be affected?
So from my understanding, the village does have some ARPA money, which was federal funding that came out in 2020. And so that money, you can't, guarantee on that. That wasn't intent to be like around forever, right? The ARPA money was to stimulate our economy. So that to me, we can't sit here and bank on the concept of like, oh, that we're going to have that money again, which is why the use of the ARPA money and what the Village of Grafton chooses to do with it is so important. And we do need to make that choice very carefully on how to spend that, because that's not, that federal money we're not always going to have access to.
Okay, Jim?
Oh yeah, federal funding. I think it all starts with our village administrator. He needs to try and apply for grants, get any sort of assistance, help that he can get for the village. I know you're mentioning ARPA funds. Those are dried up at the end of the year. We had to use the ARPA funds up. So now we got to look at a different method. Where else can we get some money? And possibly, I hope, maybe our administrator can secure some grants for the village.
Kevin?
Yeah, the federal cuts that are going to be happening are going to be an impact on our community. We definitely need to be looking into alternative sources of funding for that, whether it be grants. That would be the preferred option, an idea that we can make sure that we keep our funding the way it is. Otherwise, unfortunately, some of our services may have to be cut, and that is not something I want. I want to make sure that we keep our services added. So we're definitely looking at any grants, whether it be state or federal grants.
Thank you. Dave?
I think with any project, if possible, it'd be wise to look for different grants. In fact, we had a situation here most recently with the lime kiln at Lime Kiln Park, and in that meeting, I spoke with Chad, and I said, Chad, what is the possibility of researching grants that would be available to the parks if this type of situation happens again? We need to maintain those. That's an icon here in the village. I mean, those lime kilns, they're a beautiful part of that park, and we need to preserve those. And Chad is going to look into great grants so we can maintain those into the future. And I just think that's what we're going to have to do with more projects that we're looking to do as an ongoing measure.
Okay, now this is a real specific question, but see who knows. Let's see, Jim.
Yeah.
When are the subcommittee meetings regarding natural resources and preservation, when are they held?
Well, I assume you're talking Public Works. Those are on the Monday that we don't have a village board meeting, so Public Works is one of those. Park and Rec is on a Wednesday. I believe it's like the third Wednesday of the month after the second Monday. Public Safety is, I think, is on a Tuesday. All these dates, by the way, are listed on the village website. I would encourage all of you to come. I have been to a number of meetings where I am not a part of that committee. I go to Public Works meetings. I go to public safety meetings. I go to meetings that are not required of me to attend, but I want to attend for you.
Good. So this is like your trivia question. So Kevin, what do you say on that one?
Yeah, definitely check out the village's website. I know it's a little bit difficult to find them sometimes, as their calendar, as the individual sections of the website do not list directly to the boards that they are assorted to. But there are ways to do it. I know that it is Wednesdays, I believe, the third Wednesday for Parks and Rec. So,
Dave?
Actually, I think the village website's very easy to find when the meetings are. You just click on government when you get to the web page, and if you then just scroll over to the village board, you click on that, and they'll all populate right on the left-hand side of the web page. Click on whichever department you're looking for. Public Works meeting will be next Monday night, and the Park and Rec, if I can look at my phone, I can give you the date on that too. So that will be on.
That moves around, Dave.
But it is the 19th of this month. So those are the dates for those two meetings. So, and I encourage anybody in here to come and sit in on those meetings.
Okay, so for the person that asked that question, you got your answers there. Okay, Sarah, you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I live by my Google Calendar. I am a single mother of 2 daughters. If Google doesn't tell me where to be, I won't be there. So I have all of these meetings in my calendar. I would agree that the meetings are relatively easy to be able to find the time and the date. I wish that the website would have the time and the date of the subcommittee meetings along with connections to the meeting minutes and the agenda, because those are listed in 2 separate places. So it is kind of, if you want to go to a meeting and be active and get yourself all ready and print yourself out an agenda, you kind of have to surf around a little bit. So there's that disconnect for me. But the calendar is very easy to read whenever you want to attend a meeting. And more importantly, as your elected official, I will fill you guys in on what meetings are coming up through my use of technology and video and social media, so that we can go together to these subcommittee meetings and have all of our voices heard. And if you can't make it, I will be the voice for you as your next trustee.
Thank you. Last question. It's a good positive one. Kevin, what are a few things about Grafton that you are most proud of? Like that.
right. So my family moved here about 3 years ago now. We moved here mainly for the schools because of the quality of the schools that are here. But that's not the reason we fell in love with Grafton, and not the reason why I'm running today. I'm running today because of all the wonderful things that Grafton has to offer, and especially its parks. It has some natural beauty in it and some wonderful local businesses that make Grafton really unique. It is a wonderful place to live, and I'm so glad that I chose Grafton to live.
Okay, Dave.
Well, obviously our parks, our police department, our fire department, but we need to maintain, all 3 of those. But, I mean, the people here, the people of Grafton are fantastic people. I mean, again, when I was a kid, I fell in love with this town, village, and this is my home. And I've always felt home at Grafton, and the people of Grafton, they're friendly people. And, I mean, I'll stand on my driveway, I wave to people as they're going by every day. And it's a great place to live. People know me because I'm out on my driveway just waving to them. That's what I do. But those are the things I love about this town.
Thank you. Sarah?
There are so many things I am proud about living in Grafton. First and foremost, I remember the Manchester Mall days. It is so wonderful to see how far the village of Grafton has come over the last 20 years and still maintains its gorgeous charm. I'm extremely proud of how our community comes together in times of need, whether it's for individual families suffering from loss, or a great example would be the village of Grafton's Christmas parade right after the tragic events that happened in Waukesha. Our community, our business owners, everybody came together to make sure that that parade ran smoothly. Our village administration, our police department, and kept everybody safe. I'm so proud of my neighbors and that the work that they put in to all voice their opinions and make sure that, we all want what's best for one another and our own neighbors. And it fills my heart with joy to live in the heart of Ozaukee County.
And Jim?
My family moved here to Grafton in 1956. So I've had a chance to really see Grafton grow. When we moved into our house, there was no road in the front. We had to park a couple blocks away and walk to our home. When my brother and I, we'd go grocery shopping, my brother and I had a sack of groceries that we carried from the car to the house. So I've had a chance to really watch the community grow and made nothing but progress. I'm a very proud resident of this village for a long, long time.
Good. Okay, that's all the questions, I guess. Okay. Now you have 2 minutes to do your closing statement. So we get to start with Dave. 2 minutes, closing statements.
Well, I love Grafton, and I want to do what's best for the village of Grafton. When I was elected 2 years ago, I was approached by somebody that's in this room tonight who was a neighbor of my father. And my dad is gone, but he came up to me and he said, Dave, he says, your dad would be proud of what you're doing right now. And I could not have asked for a better compliment for what I do at this position. And I want to live up to that. I would love to, make my dad proud. And that's what I'm striving to do here as a trustee for the village of Grafton. And if you find it in you, I would appreciate your vote so I can continue that and continue to, make my dad proud of me as this neighbor knew I was doing. Thank you.
Sarah?
First and foremost, it's great to see so many people engaging in local politics and coming out tonight or tuning in via YouTube. Your interest in wanting what's best for our community is a quality that's truly admired in a neighbor, so thank you. The village motto, Quality Life Naturally, has always captured the feel of Grafton, but there's a secret to it. It's actually the dedicated work of our DPW crew, the Water and Wastewater Department, village staff, and the many residents who regularly volunteer at events who make it seem like the standard of living comes so effortlessly. As your next village trustee, I will focus on making sure the needs within the DPW are being met so we retain the skilled, qualified employees needed to complete the maintenance tasks that come along with living in such a beautiful community. It's time for someone to speak up for the types of businesses residents want developed versus what's being actually proposed and move forward. As your village trustee, I will push for a more reasonable approach to business development by thoroughly questioning projects during the early stages of proposals. I will listen to the concerns of voters and actively share the collective voice with the appropriate decision makers. As your next village trustee, I will invite discussion with voters through regular video posts on social platforms. It's time for the village to provide the community with information in a more modern format on a regular basis. I'll support the ongoing needs of the Ozaukee Central Fire Department, especially here at the Grafton Fire Department building. Whether it's upgrade to technology or structural improvements, it's important to me to understand the full situation of how it can be further improved. The OCFD has come a long way, but there's still a lot of work to be done to ensure its successful longevity. I've lived here in Ozaukee County for going on 33 years now. My father served in the U.S. Air Force for nearly 3 decades and retired as a lieutenant colonel. Watching my parents' unwavering commitment to our country and community is what sparked my own passion for servant leadership. It would be an honor to continue this tradition by serving my community as your next village trustee. I hope to earn your vote on Tuesday, April 1st.
Jim?
First, Dave, I echo your comments about your father encouraging you. This is my father's village board badge. I'm sorry. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Grafton Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. What a rewarding journey it's been. I've had the opportunity to meet so many people along the way. I've made so many new friendships, and lifelong friendships they are. I'll do my best to keep your taxes down, keep your streets plowed, your garbage picked up, provide the public safety you've come to know and expect. My passion is park and recs. I will continue my weekly drives to our larger parks, and I'm so proud of our new pavilion at Vets Park. I invite all citizens to come see for yourself. In closing, it's not about me. It's about all the people. In over 5 years, I have not missed a village board meeting. I have not missed a meeting because I work for you. I recently received a plaque from a colleague that says, "Difference Maker." That's my goal. This is a nonpartisan election. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm a Blackhawk. A Blackhawk. Thank you for your past support. And I humbly ask for your vote. And I'm sorry, I just kind of lost it.
You're doing great. You're doing great. You're passionate, Jim. We like to see your passion.
Yeah. Kevin?
First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Grafton Chambers for having this. This discussion between the candidates is a very important thing because it allows all the community members to be able to see us and talk to us ahead of time, ahead of the April 1st vote. I also want to thank everyone who is here and online. Without the community members investing themselves in the community, we would not have the quality of life that Grafton brings. That phrase, quality of life, naturally means a lot. But I know that it also takes a lot to make that a consistent thing. It means that we have to have people who are invested in the community and who want to help out as much as they can. I want to help out the community as much as I can. I want to be able to spend my time making this the wonderful community that I've moved to and have fallen in love with. I want to make sure we invest in our services that keep Grafton, and that we don't overextend ourselves and cause issues in long terms. I want to make sure that we keep our parks clean. I want to make sure that we invest in our natural resources, and I want to make sure we keep Grafton a great place for children to grow up. Thank you.
Great. Okay, well, it's the League's hope that this forum tonight has given you good information so that you can cast an educated vote on April 1st for Village of Grafton Board of Trustees. We encourage you to check out a website called vote411.org. And I don't know, are there any little cards on the back table? Oh, no. Oh, shucks. Amy, did you bring any? Vote411.org. It's a National League of Women Voters guide, but our league locally participates, and all the candidates should have been contacted by a league member inviting them to provide information and responses to 3 questions regarding the upcoming election. But it also will give you who's ever on your ballot and give you information on any other candidates that might be on your ballot. So that's vote411.org. So we certainly would like to thank these wonderful candidates for giving up their time and their thoughts, and let's give them a round of applause. I think they did great. Good job. Brimville still have their acorn going?
I think so.
To the candidate forum for Grafton Village President. Tonight's forum is to introduce you to the candidates and is not limited to any one issue. My name is Mary Fran LaPesca. I'm a proud member of the League of Women Voters, almost 44 years. I live in Port Washington and I'll be your moderator. This forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters and the Grafton Chamber of Commerce. Special thanks again to Elizabeth Miller for helping with arrangements for tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, does not endorse or oppose any candidates or political party. And the Grafton Chamber of Commerce is also nonpartisan, does not support any candidate or party. The Chamber is recording tonight's forum and also going live on YouTube, and it will be posted on their website. Links will also be available on the League of Women Voters Ozaki website and our Facebook page, so please no audio or visual recordings. We have two candidates for the nonpartisan Grafton Village President position, and questions for tonight's forum were solicited by the Grafton Chamber. And if any of you have questions that you'd like to add in additional, write on the cards that have been provided that League members will have, and we can get those asked of the candidates. And direct them to both candidates and make sure they're related to the village president position. Okay, the format is similar to the one we just finished. I'd like to first introduce the candidates for tonight. Dan Deloret on your left and Lisa Uribic Harbeck on your left.
Uribe, but that's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Uribe Harbeck, okay. And the format will be 90 seconds for the opening statement. And we have a new League member doing the time cards, Rachel Eater from the town of Saukville. The opening statements will be followed by responses to the written questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to questions. Both candidates will respond to all questions. And after the question period, then candidates will have 2 minutes for closing statement. And again, I'd like to say that the views expressed during the forum are the candidate's position and not those of the League of Women Voters or the Grafton Chamber of Commerce. And again, these candidates have chosen to make the special effort to run for elected office, and as a consequence, they are subjecting themselves to the scrutiny of the voters. Whatever you may think of each candidate's position on issues, they deserve our respect for their willingness to serve in public office. So please silence any of your personal devices and kindly hold your applause until the end of the forum. And we will now begin with introductory remarks. And Dan won the coin flip, so Dan, you have 90 seconds to introduce yourself.
Well, good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the Grafton Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event and having the best interest of the vitality of Grafton. Also, many thanks to the Ozaki League of Women's Voters for their organization in providing this opportunity. I'd also like to thank the citizens of Grafton for allowing me to serve for 2 great years, for together with the village board, we have accomplished so much. It's been an honor to serve. I stand for common sense principles, these principles that make most sense to the whole population of the village of Grafton. In my 2 years, I've spoken to many people in different age groups. It's hard, as an elected official, to keep all village residents in mind when we have citizens who advocate changes for their neighbors, their congregation members, or their service organizations. Looking at the ordinance, state laws, and codes help give us that direction. However, keep in mind, I believe all ordinances should be reviewed and subject to change. My goals are and have been to support public safety, prioritize strong fiscal constraint, use logical decision-making processes in determining future development, increasing transparency, village outreach, and develop strong working relationships with other governmental agencies. I ask for your vote on April 1st to continue our progress. Early voting starts on March 18th. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Lisa.
Hello, my name is Lisa Uribe Harbeck, and I'm asking for your vote for village president. I've lived in Grafton for almost 31 years. My husband Bill and I moved here for all the same reasons that many of you did. The rural atmosphere, great schools, great parks, walkability, and small town feel. We have 2 children and 1 grandchild. As an Aurora cancer care nurse for 24 years, I am empathetic, a good listener, and I feel that my patients are like my family members. I've been on the village board for 15 years and was elected in part because I was involved in a group of citizens who wanted to help save the Bridge Street Dam. My priorities start with curbing additional development of luxury high-end multifamily apartments. We need more single-family homes that normal people can afford. We need to preserve and make sure that green space is part of all future development in Grafton. I'm also running because I want to restore the rights of the residents to speak and ask questions during meetings when an agenda item is being discussed. This is a right that our current president took away when he was elected. Many residents have complained about this to me, and they deserve a meaningful voice. So this is going to change. I view our relationship and communication as a two-way process. My approach has always been to listen, investigate, and ask questions. Lastly, our fire department is in its infancy, and we have to work hard to retain our relationship. We work well together. I'll continue to do what I can. I look forward to working for you as the next president, someone who will always listen to what matters to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa, first question. What is a president's role, and how is that different from the trustee?
Good question. Well, I think first and foremost, the president's role is to be somebody at the head of the village, at the head of the board. And I think that they need to set an example for the rest of the community and for the board. He or she is able to kind of take the lead and carry out the meeting. And to be honest, carrying out the meeting and making decisions is something that they have the opportunity to do. Every trustee and president votes the same. There's one vote, but the president really doesn't have any ability to say, I'm going to do this without the village trustees weighing in. They run meetings, they are able to pass referendums, but basically their job description is the same. 1 vote out of 7.
Thank you. Dan?
I think the village president is the chief elected official of the village. And there are a lot of things that the village president finds out through a normal course of business that, perhaps the trustees don't always know about. I think as a village president, what we do is we look at being involved and engaged in community events to be able to work together with the staff and understand what comes through with our information for consideration for every action that comes up at the village board. As village president, you have to understand what the folks are in the village, and what they stand for, and what they want to have done in their favor.
Okay, Dan, question 2. What is your long-term vision for Grafton, and what are the top 3 priorities you plan to address during your term?
I think the long-term vision of Grafton is to be a successful place for people to live and people to come and enjoy. We are there. I think a lot of people want to live in the village of Grafton. We see our population increasing over the last year, about 100 from 2023 to 2024. I think our top priorities this year, this next couple of years, to really work with our plan, our comprehensive plan, to really figure out what we want to be, not in 2035, but what we want to be in 2050. I think we need to be able to make an investment in our public safety to keep our citizens safe. And lastly, I think we need to be able to focus on our public works and our infrastructure.
Thank you. Lisa?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What is your long-term vision for Grafton, and what are the top 3 priorities you plan to address during your term?
So I think it's important for Grafton to try to stay and keep its small town feel. I think it's hard when we have these luxury apartments overbuilt on Port Washington Road. And I think that people who want to come to Grafton want to have a home to live in, and that's difficult at this point. Some of the things that we have best in Grafton and things that we want to capitalize on is I think we need to have more sit-down restaurants. I think that we need to look at not overdeveloping. There are a lot of companies that would like to come to Grafton, and I don't necessarily think that everybody who asks us should be able to come into Grafton. I think we need to take advantage and look at the things that we have going for us. Veterans Park. The river is a huge benefit. I think we need to look forward to that, and we need to plan for how we're going to help the river.
Okay, and this question kind of continues on. Lisa, what is your approach to balancing new development while preserving Grafton's small-town charm?
Well, like I was saying earlier, we recently have some multifamily, high-density, very expensive housing going in on Port Washington Road. And I think there may be people who are going to come in and take that. But I think that Grafton is really looking at, we need better housing for families. We need more affordable housing. And it's hard because with the high-density, expensive housing, I'm not sure where that's going. We are keeping it out at the highway, and that's good. We shouldn't bring those kinds of apartments here in downtown. So I think going forward, we need to think about that. We need to think about, is that better for us? Is that what the citizens want? I don't think citizens want high-density apartment buildings, and I think that what they say is what we need to listen to.
Okay. Dan?
Repeat the question.
Oh, sure. What is your approach to balancing new development while preserving Grafton's small-town
Well, the
charm?
answer to all of this is really in the comprehensive plan. We have a comprehensive plan that sometimes we've followed in the past and sometimes we've not followed in the past. To be really clear here, we've not approved any new apartments in the last 2 years. Those apartments were approved 2 to 3 years ago. And that was done by our village board, and I think we all have to realize that these developments just don't happen overnight. The second thing is how do we balance this? Well, follow the plan. The second thing is reinvestigate to see if that plan is really working. And lastly, we have to work together with developers. Village doesn't have a lot of insight into what we can build and what we can't build. We have to follow the zoning that we have established.
Okay, continuing with housing. Question 4, Dan. What is your position on the development of multi-family homes or apartments in Grafton beyond areas that have already been developed?
Well, I think one of the things that happened when I came onto the village board is I had a very good discussion with our director of planning, and what we decided is that given the fact that we have about 475 to 500 apartments showing up right now out on Port Washington Road, we need to slow it down a bit, and we have. We've had multiple people come to us and talk with us about adding new apartments, and we've said, geez, we're not really ready for that until these apartments fill up. I think we have a need for single-family housing, which we've added over 200 houses in the last 2 years, and we've also have a need for apartments. I think the market needs to drive what apartments we need to put in based on what people want and what developers want to develop. I'd love to have more working wage housing. It's a challenge right now because we really have expensive building costs as well as expensive land costs.
Thank you. And Lisa? Would you? Sure, yeah. What is your position on the development of multi-family homes or apartments in Grafton beyond areas that have already been developed?
So, as I said before, we have now designated an area out on Port Washington Road, and that's typically now, I believe, going to be our larger volume multifamily housing. Originally, there were apartments that were going to be considered for the Triangle. And a lot of people spoke up about that and talked about they did not want that. Thankfully, the citizens spoke up and they were listened to. but only after the second time that it came back to the village board. I think that we need to focus on single-family housing for regular people like us, people who may not be able to afford the expensive housing going in at Harmony Grove. So I think that it's hard to say to developers, no, you can't come in. I know the thought is that tax dollars are important, but we need to answer to our residents.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa, question number 5. When a village project such as major road work or development such as housing is being considered, how should the village ensure that residents who may be impacted are notified and that their input is taken into account before a final decision is made?
So we have had some issues recently with this, a couple different projects recently. Recently on 10th Avenue, the street was going to be redone, and some of the residents got a letter, many of the residents got a letter, and I think that's important. If we're going to do any kind of project, any kind of development, roads, if any new development is coming in, there is a rule about how many feet they need to be notified. It's only 100 feet. It should be more than that. People have an opportunity to come and speak. I don't care if you live over on the west side. If anything has an effect on you, you should be notified. So what that means is possibly they need to be notified on social media. This is something that we have to change. We can't do a public works project with people not being aware. And people need to be aware because they have opinions about what's going on, and they need to be able to have a chance to weigh in and talk to the trustees about what they want.
Thank you. Dan?
Repeat the question,
Sure.
please.
When a village project such as major road work or development such as new housing is considered, how should the village ensure that residents who may be impacted are notified and that their input is taken into account before a final decision is made?
Well, I think we can always do a better job of communicating with our residents about projects that really affect their neighborhood. I do know that we, in checking with other communities in this area, we do more to communicate to the people in those areas than other communities do. I believe that people have to be willing to hear. And sometimes what happens is that we get a couple of people in the neighborhood who are very upset about how that project is going to go. And I think that we try to react to that. But we have open meetings. We have meetings several times at Public Works. We have meetings on the village board. And we rarely have people show up unless they're upset about something. I think our communication is good. I think it can always be better. But I think what we need to be able to do is just make sure that we follow the ordinances and our current practices.
Okay, this is somewhat related question. Dan, what are your thoughts about residents speaking, asking questions, or otherwise providing citizen input during village board or committee meetings?
Well, I'm really happy that came up because I think that people have a general idea that we've stopped allowing people to communicate at village meetings, and that's simply not true. We follow state guidelines, the state ordinances, which actually says we don't have to allow people to speak. That's in the state ordinance. But that's not a good thing to do. So what we do is we do allow people to speak for 2 to 3 minutes at the beginning of any meeting on any topic that they want to. However, I think that there are some folks who want to speak during deliberations. We have a business meeting. Business meetings do not require that people speak during that time. And if there is time that we're looking for input on a major project, we always do have a public hearing where people can speak openly, and we let them have that decision. So in closing, what I'd like to say is that this is really a non-issue. We allow people to talk. You can tell us what you want to tell us. However, as a village board, we can't react to that. Now we refer them over to the committee that is responsible for that.
And Lisa?
So in the last 2 years, the citizens have not been allowed to speak during a village board meeting. We talk about topics that are important to you, agenda items that affect you every day, and that has been taken away. Your right to speak at a village board meeting during a topic of consideration has been taken away. And and the time that you have to speak at the beginning of a meeting is a time when you can say whatever you like. You can talk about anything that you want. You can talk about what's on the agenda. But for some reason, the president took away that ability and decreased it from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. Not only did he decrease it on his own, there's a stop clock up on the wall that is started when you speak, and it buzzes and interrupts you as you're talking. But the worst part is we work for you, and we listen to you, and we don't know what you're thinking if you're not allowed to speak. That needs to change.
Okay, Lisa, how will you ensure that the village government is transparent and accountable to its residents?
Well, I think one of the most important ways we can measure that is by letting people speak. I think that we as elected officials need to interact with the citizens, whether that's having them contact us, whether it's talking to them after a village board meeting. Transparency is supposed to be about, us being open for all the information. So I don't think we should hide information. I think that by being transparent, you're putting yourself out there. And it needs to go two ways, too. I think that we need to be held accountable to you, because you've elected us and you have said we want you to represent us. And so my job is to come to a meeting every day, look at the topics, and decide what's best for you. If you feel that I haven't done my job, you need to call me and tell me. But we work for you, and we need to be honest with you, and we need to be honest with things that are going on in the village.
Thank you. Dan?
Transparency. That's an interesting topic, because I think when we look at transparency, it's how we make decisions in front of our public. That's handled through a well-organized meeting that allows you to have input at the beginning, and every decision that's made is made when I raise my hand and I say aye, or I say nay. That's transparency. Transparency is having our meetings posted now 3 days earlier than they were in the past. Or, I'm sorry, 2 days earlier than they are in the past. So everybody has the opportunity to look at the agenda, see what's coming up, and see the decision that's being made. Transparency is about being able to see the best democratic meeting that we have in this nation. The decision is made in front of you with debate by the village trustees and the village president. That's transparency.
Thank you. Okay. Question 8, and these two trustees are hearing the same kind of questions that they got to answer. How would you encourage citizen engagement and active participation in the business of the village that would include more eligible voters?
Oh, I think great question. I think that the sad part tonight is we have about 45 people here, and probably I heard last about 31 households, which means that we have about maybe 90 people out of 12,000 people in our village. Actually, shame, because I think in theory, people really do like what's happening in the village. If they didn't, they would be at these meetings, or they'd be speaking out at village board meetings. I think what we need to be able to do to drive more voters is to be able to tell people, like the League of Women Voters does, more about their candidates on Vote 411, and also to be able to get out there and tell people to vote. And that's what I do every day. I'm out pounding the pavement telling people, get out there and vote. No matter what your decision is, vote.
Lisa?
Would you repeat the question?
Sure. How would you encourage citizen engagement and active participation in the business of the village that would include more eligible voters?
So I think that it's interesting to try to get people engaged. I think that if there's something going on in the village and it affects them, and that's a different thing than, oh, I'm going to go to a meeting, I don't really know what's going on at the meeting. If people can get personally invested and they have a complaint, they have a comment, I think that we can try to encourage them to come to a meeting. I think that I like to go out and talk to people. I like to meet. People send me emails. They have complaints. I go to their house. I visit with them. I think one of the things that we need to encourage our citizens to do is to get more involved also. People have said that they don't really know things that are going on in the village, and I think that's a two-way street. I think that we need to help them. I think we need to post information on the village website, which we do. And I think that they will find that when they, okay, sorry.
Usually let you complete your
Yeah.
sentence. Thanks, Barb. Okay. Question to Lisa again. If the Ozaki Central Fire Department Board approaches the village about funding a portion of the facility renovations for the fire stations, how should the village's portion of the project be funded?
So this has been, the consolidation of the fire department has been coming for years. It is about the money. But what's interesting about this is all along for the past 2 years, we've been talking about the money. There's been a special committee that's met. They've talked about what the new department is going to need going forward. The referendum was something that was put forward to add more staff to the fire department. We also didn't make any kind of adjustments for the staff that they need for HR, staff that they need for business manager. They need a lawyer. So there's a lot of other costs that we need to consider. And I think that's something that wasn't talked about in the initial referendum. So I think that's something that we need to add. We're going to have to share the cost between 4 communities. They can't keep existing with a building that is out of compliance, and they need these 3 new paramedic firefighters that we've promised them.
Thank you. Dan?
Well, the OCFD is obviously a joint arrangement between 4 different municipalities/townships. We did the best job we could to come up with the idea of what money was going to be needed to run the department. And I'd like to correct Ms. Harbeck on this, in that the fact that the goal of the consolidated fire department was to decrease response time, which we've done a very good job at. I'm very happy that we're able to add the majority of the staff that we need. The question about I believe the question was about how we're going to fund the improvements at the fire department. We have a lot of opportunities for that. Certainly we can work with the townships to come up with a funding. We can look at potentially adding additional impact fees. And, again, I think you talked about a $5 million grant that you might be able to give us, that we could get. That would be one of the places I'd use that $5 million grant for.
Great. All right. And to Dan again, how do you engage with fellow trustees or residents who disagree with you? Please describe how you would handle any conflicting viewpoints.
Well, I think that the conflicting viewpoints that we typically will see will be handled at the public meeting. I mean, I think we disagree with each other all the time. I think that the strength of our current board is that we've had a lot of 4-3, a lot of 5-2, a lot of 6-1 votes. There's not always general consensus, or I'm sorry, not consensus agreement of this. I think the way that we generally work things out is we do have fierce discussions, and fierce discussions are not unkind, but we do talk and say, geez, I don't think you're right on that. And I think that's just the best way of doing that is to be human, to understand, to disagree, and respectfully disagree, and agree to disagree.
Okay, thanks. Lisa?
I'm just going to first off start by saying that I disagree with Dan. The referendum was supposed to be something that provided us with so many firefighter paramedics. And that cost was something that that money ended up going to other things for the fire department. So I disagree that was the best that we could get. If we have, and I agree with Dan that I think that the fellow trustees, I think we all basically get along. I think that we can find commonalities. And if we do disagree, I think we have always talked to each other after the meeting. We have discussed different ways that we do agree, but I think that for the most part, we agree that we are there to serve the citizens, and we are going to try to do our best for what's best for you. And we may disagree about that, and we can go to the mats for that, but sometimes we do change our mind. And that happens when, I think, citizens contact us, if we get new information for the project. So I think that by history, we do all get along.
Okay, last question. Lisa. Oh, okay, there might be some back there. Okay, not the last question. Okay. What do you feel is an acceptable tax increase each year as a percentage for each homeowner? What do you feel is an acceptable tax increase each year as a percentage for each home?
Well, that's interesting because I think we'd all like to keep our taxes flat or, at a level that we don't have an increase. Now, we did have an increase this last year with the referendum for the fire department. So I believe the tax rate last year was $6.03 per $1,000 of valuation. I believe it's gone up by $1, so that the average homeowner was paying approximately $276 more on their taxes. So I think the goal is to, keep taxes flat. I mean, I'm not sure that there is an acceptable amount of money. Nobody wants to pay more money for taxes, but you also don't want your services to be impacted. So I think you have to look at what's important to you, and if you're going to have taxes raised, what's it going to be for? For me, I would still have another tax increase for me personally to support the fire department because they need to become whole.
Dan.
Oh, I like flat tax. I mean, I like no increase. And I think we're in a good situation right now because what we saw year over year, we saw a 22% increase in our equalized value. That's strong because what's basically happening, what's had here, and we continue to have here in single family and in commercial development and in also in apartments, we're seeing a considerable contribution into the levy by these new developments. So I think that we stand in really good situation to keep our taxes flat and keep our services good, and also to maybe increase those services a little bit with the funding that we have. Like we did last year, we did increase staffing in almost all of our departments, including the police department, which we haven't done in over 10 years. So I think that what we're looking at is, yes, we want to make sure we support public safety, and we want to make sure that we keep taxes low.
Okay, Dan. Does the village board do anything to recruit new businesses to come to Grafton? For example, the old Pick and Save Big Lots building, or do you wait for a prospective tenant to approach you or show interest in the landlords?
Well, whoever wrote that question is brilliant. So raise your hand, because I will tell you that what we do, well, excellent work. Thank you very much. Good bow. But I think what we see is that our director of planning and assistant administrator is constantly working to find businesses to come to the village of Grafton. She works very closely with Ozaki Economic Development to find businesses that come to Grafton. And the nice thing is we're getting a great mix of new businesses. I mean, if you look at our South Business District, it's flourishing. Our downtown business, our district, we have fewer empty buildings. And of course, on the east side, we're going crazy with the additional new restaurants that we have out there. So I think we're doing a really good job, and I want to give kudos to Jessica for really working hard to get that done. So thank you very much for working and looking. There's barely a week that we go by that we don't have somebody coming in and asking us if they'd be interested in coming to Grafton.
Lisa.
So I think I have heard a couple different scenarios about this. Sometimes I hear that we go out and look for businesses, and other times businesses or developers come to us. I think that's a good mix, but I have also heard a lot of citizens are frustrated. They are frustrated with the kind of businesses that we have. How many times have you heard, we have 18 pizza places. We have, too many nail salons. Now, granted, these are still businesses, so we are glad that they're here. restaurants. It's hard to get restaurants here. I don't know why. I mean, maybe we don't have the availability. So I think it's frustrating. How the heck did Three Leaf come here? I mean, we have this triangle project. How did that? I don't know. So I think that we need to do everything in our power, whether we're on the board or whether it's you. Contact us, contact Jessica if you have an idea. But there are, we're very landlocked, so we only have so much area.
Okay, Lisa. The president position requires engagement and communication with the entire village staff. How do you plan to create a relationship with the department heads?
So I've been here for 15 years. I have seen some changes in the departments. And it is interesting to see. We've also added some positions. So I think that it's good to check in with the department heads. I think that when you're on the committees, you have an opportunity to get to know the department heads a little more. They are certainly there to assist you on the committees and give their recommendation. It's up to the village staff to try to, I guess, educate those of us who are on the board. But in the end, with the staff's recommendation, the village board gets to make the decisions about what's going to go in at the village. I think that the village leaders are good at talking to us and sharing what is important to them. But I think it's up to us to do what the citizens want, and I think that's most important.
Dan.
Would you please repeat?
Sure. The president position requires engagement and communication with the village staff. How do you plan to create a relationship with the department heads?
Well, I honestly don't think I need to develop a relationship over what we've had. I think I have a very good relationship with our administrator, with every department head, because I reach out to them and I work with them on a daily basis, if not, on a weekly basis. I attend staff meetings, so I understand what their needs are. I listen to the dialogue that goes on between the administrator and the department heads, and the dialogue that goes on between the department heads. I invest myself in this village and spend about 12 to 20 hours a week in trying to make this village be the best it can be. I coach, I encourage, I congratulate. There are times when I also have to sit back and say, you know what, that wasn't the best idea, but I do that in private. So I have to honestly say, I think the village staff is pretty happy with what I'm able to do, and continue to encourage them to do their best for us. We can't do it without them. Comes in and wants to buy it that the rest of the neighbors don't like. What can I do about it? Very little. I can't do anything about that. The gentleman who owned the charcoal grill decided that having a sit-down restaurant wasn't in his best interest because he can't find help. So essentially what he said is, I'm going to close that down and I'm going to open up something. And what he did is he had a developer come in and say, we want to put a Chase Bank in there. Do I want another bank? No, I don't. But that's not my decision. That's not the village's decision. Whoever owns that property has the right to build what they want as long as it fits the zoning that we have there. Hey, look, I don't want 9 pizza places either. But you people have got to stop eating pizzas, and you got to stop banking. That's what's going to do it.
Lisa.
So, yes, we do have a lot of banks. They say that a lot of banks in your community is good. It says that the bank is interested in coming into your community because you're their customer. They want to be there for you. They want to make it convenient for you to move your money in and out. No, I don't think we have the ability to say yes or no to a bank. I think that we don't really have the ability to say yes or no to any type of business like that. We have had a little bit of trouble every once in a while with some types of businesses, but for something like a bank, something like a pizza parlor, I think that it shows that those businesses want to be in Grafton. They want to support the people that frequent them, and I think that's important.
Okay. We are at the point of closing statements, so you will have 2 minutes. And Lisa, we will begin with you.
Sure. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to share my thoughts and vision for the future of Grafton. Also, thanks to the Chamber for bringing us together. I want to leave you with the things that I really care about. We need to be very careful about adding more high-end multifamily apartments. What we really need is more single-family homes that most people can actually afford. And we need to make changes now so citizens, local partners, businesses feel that they have a voice and are actually being listened to. We need to restore the ability of the citizens to have meaningful input at village board meetings. The restrictive practices over the past 2 years were put into place single-handedly by my opponent, thus stifling your input. No more stop clocks, buzzers, or being gavelled down when you want to speak. We're better than that. In addition, it is absolutely necessary to preserve the green space we still have, and we need to tell developers that that's what's important to us. Personally, I would like to see more resident participation in our village government. Your voice and ideas on our boards and commissions and at meetings helps us know what you want. We have lots of smart, dedicated citizens, and we want to include you. I will again give kudos to our newly formed Ozaki Central Fire Department. I know I speak for all of us on the board saying we've got your back, and we really do. Communication between the partners is paramount in this new venture. This next year may be bumpy, but we are all here for the long haul, and we are still part of the family. Those of you who know me know that I like to dig in and speak with people in person. Getting to know our residents is very important to me. I have never been a rubber stamper, and as your president, I will continue to approach the job the same way I always have, by researching and talking to people. I look forward to working hard for you as the next president, someone who will always listen to you and to what matters to you, your voice in our village. Thank you.
Dan.
Well, once again, thank you to the Chamber and to the Ozaki County League of Women's Voters for providing this opportunity for the citizens of Grafton. You know, it's important for us to understand the uniqueness of our government in Grafton, where each trustee and the village president all get one vote and an equal say in the determination on how we spend your tax dollars and develop policies. We can make a lot of promises to you to garner your vote. However, the stability and future of our village relies on a unique relationship between the village president, the trustees, the professional staff, and also you as the citizens of Grafton. All of these decisions need to be made in front of the public in a well-run meeting. We need to focus on understanding the continued needs of our community as we grow, and we're growing. We need to focus on the following: keeping our village safe with excellent police services, continuing to enhance emergency medical and fire services to the community we serve, providing future engineering to keep our water and wastewater systems up to date with the growth, staying on top of our road improvements, parks, keeping our tax rates stable so people of all ages can rely on village services at a fair cost. We've done all of this with excellent leadership in the past 2 years, leadership which has been responsive, respectful, and resourceful. Looking for opportunities to share services, we have worked with other governmental entities to keep our services excellent and tax levy at less than 1% growth, aside from the OCFD referendum. We've added staff to improve parks, recreation, wastewater management, engineering, fire, and police services. You know what? I'm not perfect in everybody's eyes. I get that. I continually strive to improve how I represent the village of Grafton and, yes, run meetings. I try to be flexible and strive to be humble in performing my work for all of you. I ask for your support on April 1st. Early voting starts March 18th. Thank you for your support.
This concludes our forum. It's the League's and the Chamber's hope that this forum has given you, the voters, information that will help you cast that educated vote on April 1st for Village of Grafton President. And again, we encourage you to check out the League's vote411.org website, that you'll find a lot of good information and hopefully information that candidates have provided to give you more information. So we thank you, Lisa and Dan, for your time and your thoughts tonight, and let's give them a round of applause. Thanks. Good job, both of you.
Best of luck.